Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses here today to talk about this very important topic. You know, since signing of the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, the Philippines has been one of our key allies in the Pacific. However, in recent years, the alliance has grown both more important and even more key as far as our strategic alignment. Despite being outmatched militarily and economically, the Philippines have demonstrated an incredible resolve in resisting Beijing's unlawful aggression in the South China Sea, certainly more recently. It is also able to act as an important voice within the ASEAN against Communist China's other pressure campaigns that you all have been talking about. But the most important is what the alliance provides us militarily. And Mr. Shriver, you were talking about the expansion of the EDCA bases and the 9 strategic sites that they've given us access to enhance our ability to deter Communist China in the Taiwan Strait, the South China Sea, and other key theaters. It's also allowed us to deploy the Typhoon missile system, which can hold land-based targets and China at risk, as well as surface ships. How important is it for us to continue to work with Manila to expand U.S. access to these sites and further invest in the infrastructure and housing for U.S. troops, Mr. Shriver?
Thank you. I think it's extraordinarily important, and if you kind of racked and stacked in the region, I would put the Philippines right at the top of where we need to invest, given its geography and given a window of opportunity. You know, the last administration in Manila under President Duterte wasn't exactly user-friendly, if you will. Marcos has been a sea change and really more of a return to the norm, but a sea change nonetheless, and I think we should take advantage of that. And frankly, the population, given Chinese aggression and coercion, is also very much in support of strengthening U.S.-Philippine ties, and I think it's the time to make the investments that are needed.
Great. And, you know, we were just talking about China's really aggressive position toward the Philippines and these gray zone attacks. In the South China Sea, you mentioned some of the areas there. It's really, really valuable that Manila shows this defiance, isn't it, Mr. Shriver?
It is. They're, of course, first and foremost responsible for their own defense, and I think they have done a very admirable job on these resupply missions to Second Thomas Shoal, really resisting that Chinese pressure and coercion.
So what else can we or Japan or Australia do to be able to support the Philippines as they resist this gray zone activity here in the South China Sea?
Well, I think Chinese coercion is not limited to South China Sea, so I think pushback in the East China Sea, pushback in areas closer to Vietnam. It's a comprehensive approach that is led by the U.S. but joined with allies and partners will, I think, demonstrate to the Chinese that they've got a broader problem, that the country that signed UNCLOS and ratified it but does not honor it and acts outside it is going to face broad pushback. And then on point in the Philippines, I do think we need to resume our cooperation with the Philippine Coast Guard, which is now on pause because it's a state INL program and it's a law enforcement program. The Coast Guard is really on the front lines, not necessarily the Navy in every case. So I think there's a number of things we can do, and again, it's extraordinarily important.
What about the cooperation between Japan and the Philippines? They've recently, gotten some agreements together. What do you think about that?
Very encouraging. I mean, if you looked at a map, Japan, Philippines, what's in the middle? It's Taiwan, and I think a lot of the security cooperation is oriented toward that major known contingency. But Japan is also stepping up with security assistance. So we are no longer the sole provider or only provider of military equipment and other training and other types of services. Japan is a very professional military, and they're lending that expertise to the Philippines in very helpful ways.
Yeah. I think we've provided about $500 million last year in FMS to the Philippines, and obviously it's encouraging to see Japan do that as well. And you were also talking about the percent of GDP that the Philippines is spending and valuing the bases and so forth. Is it fair for us to ask the Philippines to get to 2% of GDP spending on their own defense? I mean, they are trying to modernize here.
I'm for being aspirational, and I think given the threat they're facing, it's reasonable to ask. I think those discussions, that's why we need skilled diplomats, that's why we need capable alliance managers with years of experience. I agree there are some approaches, as Dr. Mastro pointed out, that can have negative effects, and so I think we need to do it with a degree of deftness, but it is important.
Do the Philippines have that kind of capability? I mean, can they economically support 2% of GDP, do you think?
Short answer, I would say, is yes. But it is a very robust democracy. They have a lot of other priorities when it comes to development of the economy. So this would be grinding it out through the legislature, but I think they could get there given the threat and the very real requirements they have for defense.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Shriver.
Senator Coons.